Hello and welcome to Top Tech Tips for EYFS. We've practiced a lot on saying that, haven't we? That tongue twister. Lovely bit of alliteration there, Wendy.
Yeah.
So essentially, we'll start off by saying we're so sorry to hear about Hayley feeling so poorly. We had a little video chat with her and her voice is totally gone. There is no way she could have done it. She's awaiting a COVID test and love her. She sounds really poorly, but she is on here just to answer any sort of questions. She did say she's not feeling the best, but she will have any sort of, try to answer any sort of questions that you may have for her. So she is on, and she's passed all her notes on to me so I can sort of read them off as well. So you know you're getting expert tips there from Hayley, and then I'll sort of do a little bit as well. And then Wendy, you're going to tell us a little bit about what CAS have to offer as well. So I'm 10-minute teach. I'm a teacher in Wales. I'm a Key Stage 2 leader, so the opposite end of the spectrum to EYFS, but really interested in how we should be bringing this in as early as possible. Obviously, lots of you know Hayley as all about early years. As she said, she's so sorry. I'm here to answer any questions and my DMs are always open. And we've also got Wendy as well. So Wendy, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. My name's Wendy Piccinini. I work for Computational School. I was a primary school teacher for many years until I joined 2 years ago and became one of the CAS outreach managers. So I manage communities across London and the east of England, and I'll be telling you a bit more about what Computational School has to offer a bit later on. Thanks.
So I'm just going to start off. Hayley sent me a list of apps basically that she says, you know, really should be on your list. If you are an EYFS teacher, download these and that should really help you. So in terms of reading, she said there's Teach Your Monster to Read, Phonics Play, Hairy Letters, which sounds very interesting, Phonics Bloom, Reading Eggs, and Alpha Blocks. And they're ones that she really recommends for any sort of early years reading. Ones that then she uses just to sort of engage the children, FX Guru. She said that brings the classroom alive, and I'm sure that's the app that you can sort of import sort of augmented reality characters or pictures in your classroom, and you can sort of create something like a dinosaur walking in or an explosion or things like that. Maybe not for EYFS, but you know. Chatter Kid, add your voice to any picture or character, and that's her class's favorite one. I think there's another one called Chatterpix which does the exact same sort of thing. And Vooks, I never know if it's Vooks or Vooks, but it's VOOKS, like books, but with a V, and they're interactive storybooks then as well. And she said CBeebies is a great app just to have on there as well. G Bratley 18 said, can we get a list of the apps, please? I'll read them off again, but I'm sure perhaps we can share them as well. So Teach Your Monster to Read, Phonics Play, Hairy Letters, Phonics Bloom, Reading Eggs, Alpha Blocks, FX Guru, Chatter Kid, Vooks, and CBeebies. Oh, and I can see Hayley said, I'll add the list of apps onto my stories after. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Seesaw, Hayley uses that for online journals. Great parent interaction and great for home learning. I know that our whole, our whole Key Stage 1 and early years use Seesaw for remote learning, and it was just a really good tool. And we've carried that on now so that parents are constantly seeing that snapshot of what's going on in school. Hayley's also recommended something called Busy Things, and it's a subscription, but it does cover the whole early years curriculum, and it's her absolute favourite. If she said something's her absolute favourite, then it's worth looking into. So that's called Busy Things, and it's a subscription. In terms of maths, some apps are Number Blocks and Top Marks, and she said they're the ones that she tends to use the most. So in England, technology is no longer in the early learning goals. It's a little bit different to Wales. We've got the digital competency framework, and that starts from before nursery, the ABC steps. But in England, it's no longer in the early learning goals, but it doesn't mean that Hayley isn't going to teach it. She uses iPads, interactive whiteboards, as well as Bbots for simple coding, remote control cars, etc., and can discuss about where you can find information from, so laptops, websites, and has that important e-safety conversation as well. So they're the sort of things that Hayley uses. There's just a little bit that I want to touch upon in terms of the DCF in Wales. As well as your direct teaching of ICT and computing skills, there's no reason as well why you shouldn't use that across the curriculum in your enhanced areas and your continuous provision as well. Put some walkie-talkies in your outdoor area. That's a really nice way to use technology. Make sure that you're using the technological vocabulary all the way down to nursery reception. Start by introducing the words like toolbar, right click, because once you sort of grasp those basic language and they're hearing that language all of the time, when I teach in year 6 then, and my children don't know what a toolbar is, I think, oh great, well I've just told them how to do something. I was using the word toolbar the whole time. They're like, miss, what does toolbar mean? So if we can get that discrete teaching of technological language way down in early years, I mean, we build upon that throughout Key Stage 2 then. I mean, goodness knows what we can end up doing then once we've got those basics covered. And Hayley said, yes, definitely. QR codes are great too. Oh, a fabulous way of, you know, your pre-readers and everything like that. Just snapshot, scan that, and have a story read to them, or get to a website that they need to. So that's sort of my angle as well. And yeah, just the discrete side of things, labeling and using that vocabulary as often as you can. So I don't know, obviously Hayley, please butt in when you want to, and say anything else that you need to. And if there are any other questions as well, now's the time really. You've got this opportunity, this live session that Hayley is here and can answer anything. But if you're ready, Wendy, I think we'll hear a little bit from you as well and see what's on offer.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad that you mentioned using vocabulary, because it's something that I'm going to talk about as well. So yeah, that links really well, going on from what you've just already said. So yes, top tech tips. I've been practicing that all week because it really is a tongue twister.
Yeah.
You get some of the kids in your class trying to say that quickly. It's not easy. But I've come up with 3. And the first one is that it's really important for EYFS practitioners to provide opportunities for the children in your early years setting to be computational thinkers. Now, that might evoke a whole kind of range of reactions to the people that are listening to this live stream, because, for example, what does that mean? What is computational thinking? Maybe that sounds a bit too complicated for early years children. Certainly from an England curriculum point of view, wasn't technology removed from the curriculum? So why are we talking about computing? And some people may be thinking, how on earth do I go about that? You know, teaching computational thinking skills to young children, and should I bother? Why should I even try? So I thought I'd address some of those questions first of all. So computational thinking, first of all, is just a way of saying, or a technical term, if you like, for saying problem solving skills. So that might make it a little bit simpler, sorry, can't get my words out now, and demyst, you know, sort of what that phrase means. So it's problem solving, that's what we're talking about. Is it too complicated? Well, not really. Because if you look at the early learning goals, the characteristics of learning and guided principles, and I'm talking from an England curriculum perspective because that's what I'm familiar with, but I'm sure in Wales and in the other devolved nations that have similar curriculum in place, they actually align perfectly with computational thinking skills. So once you start looking into this further, I think you realise that what you're already doing is developing the children's computational thinking skills. So a lot of what's already happening in the classroom is already covering that. Technology was removed from the curriculum, but as you were saying earlier about preparing children, it is really important as EYFS practitioners to prepare them. You know, they're not going to stay in nursery reception, they're not going to stay little, unfortunately, as they move through their education journey. You know, they will progress onto Key Stage 1 and in 2 and beyond. And so one example of preparing them for that journey and for understanding the learning that they're going to go on to is to start using some of the vocabulary. I noticed that one of the people that joined was called Tinkering Teacher, I think, which is brilliant, because I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But yeah, introducing some of the vocabulary at an early stage is one way to do that and to prepare them. And so, yes, how do you go about? Where do you start? Maybe the people who are listening feel, oh, this sounds interesting. I'd like to try this. You know, I'd like to know more about it. But where can I go to get started? Well, we have a fantastic website called Barefoot Computing. I don't know if you can type that into the chat for me. It's barefootcomputing.org, because I know I like to have things written down so I don't forget what's been spoken about. But they have some fantastic EYFS resources. And if you haven't heard of Barefoot Computing before, it's free to join. So that's the first thing to say. All the resources that are available are free to download and use. And they've added an EYFS section fairly recently, and they'll be continuing to add more resources as we go through the next academic year. So good to have a look at what they've got to start with, and then, you know, keep going back there, keep revisiting and seeing what's available. I'm going to hold up this for you. Not sure how well this comes across, but this is an example of something that you can print out. This is their computational thinking guide for early years practitioners. So I would highly recommend downloading that. And that talks a bit more about the computational thinking term, which I introduced at the beginning. Within that guide, there are some really useful sections like this one, which shows how the computational thinking approaches and concepts, how they link to the curriculum. So that's something to point out. They also have this really lovely poster, which tells you more about computational thinking. And on here, it lists the concepts and approaches for early years. And so there are things that are very familiar to the practitioners listening, like patterns, creating patterns and spotting similarities and differences. Algorithms, or as we explain them to children as a set of instructions. So lots of instructions in early years for sitting on the carpet and getting your coat on and this kind of thing. Tinkering, which is the same as playing and exploring. Creating, collaboration, persevering. So as you can see, lots of things that are already taking place in that early years setting. This is a really lovely resource that you can download and start using. So those concepts and resources, you can print this out, and then this turns into a set of prompt cards. So you print it out, you cut it up, and then actually yesterday in a session that we had on early years, there was an example of a teacher who started using this. And what she's done is she's actually put them onto a lanyard. So she's got them in her classroom, they're there. And so on one side it says collaboration, and on the other side it's got some prompts and questions. So whose turn is it? Who did you work with? Who can you work with to change this? And so some really lovely questions that you can use with the children. So yeah, what a fantastic idea to you know, make it works, isn't it, in the classroom? Brilliant. And so, yeah, there's loads of resources on their website. one that's just been uploaded recently, which fits in with seasons, is called Summer Fun. And there's 3 activities there which encourage children to explore the environment. So if you want to take them outside and explore the world around them, they can create a capture. So they're out and about looking for things outside. They can create a map with a journey on it. And also there's an activity to do with the seaside and creating tangrams. All the activities encourage speaking and listening, as well as early years mathematical concepts alongside the computational thinking. They were created by 2 early years specialists, or experts I should say, who work in schools at the moment. Their names are Vicky Dodds and Isabella Leggio, and they are members of Computing at School. They're community leaders. And if you're interested in finding out more about this, we had a session yesterday that they were speaking at as part of the CAS Virtual Showcase. And I would highly recommend watching that. You can search on Google. If you put in CAS Virtual Showcase Summer 2021, you can find the recordings, or you can go to our website and find them there. So, oh, somebody's written in the chat, they've made their lanyard prompt cards today. That is fantastic.
Wow, thank you.
Absolutely. What a great idea. And it's fantastic, isn't it, when, you know, teachers take these ideas back into the classroom, they try them out and they find out how they work best. And I think that's at the heart of Computing at School, this organisation. You know, we bring teachers together to share what they're doing in the classroom, what's working well. And yeah, it's a great place just like this to chat and to learn from one another, really, because teachers know what works best for teachers.
Oh, someone's already said as well, we're using it already. Very good for EYFS.
Fantastic. I'll feed that back to the team. It's really encouraging to hear people, you know, for our members of Computing at School who've created these resources, and to hear that, you know, they've been well received and they're useful and, you know, they're being utilised. So that is absolutely fantastic. Shall I move on to my second top tech tip? To say that slowly. Yeah, just to say, if you're not familiar with the Computing at School organisation, do check it out. It's computingatschool.org.uk. And my second top tip is to start utilising the expertise of other EYFS practitioners to enhance your own practice. It is a fabulous organisation. It brings teachers together. It's free to join. There's no costs involved. You can sign up after this session. And once you've joined CAS, you will be able to tap into that expertise, I guess, of a wider CAS community. And there are some fantastic sessions that are being held. So I'm just going to highlight a few of those. So this year, this academic year, Rachel Coulter, who is one of my CAS community leaders, she leads a community in Stevenage, but all our meetings are online, so there's no problem if you're not local to Stevenage, that's not a problem. And she's led some fantastic sessions. She's led one called Using Technology to Inspire Storytelling. So that was really popular, you can imagine. She also led an EYFS showcase, and that brought practitioners together from across the country and beyond. And the idea of the event was to come along, share an idea for a great EYFS activity. So literally, you know, 1 minute or a slide, couple of minutes or whatever. And that was a brilliant learning opportunity for everyone who took part in that. She has a resource uploaded to the CAS website, which is 10 ways to use technology to inspire the early years. So do have a search for that and check that out. I can highly recommend that. I've heard her speak on that resource and it's really inspiring. It's fantastic. And some of the apps that were mentioned at the start, Hayley had on her list, I know that she goes through those, because I remember the Chatterpix one is definitely part of that session, so it will appear on the PowerPoint. We have Vicky Dodds, as I mentioned earlier, who wrote the co-wrote the Barefoot EYFS resources. She leads 3 CAS communities, wow. And she led a session on computing ideas, and another person to highlight is Holly Newell. So we have many people who are experts in that field and are very enthusiastic, but there's just 3 to highlight. And looking ahead to September, it's not too early to kind of look forward to what's coming up next academic year. On the 29th of September, Amanda Hubble is putting on a session, which is just a chance to engage with other practitioners. So if you're interested, following on from what we've been talking about, and you'd like to meet some of these people and, you know, and ask them questions, then do sign up for that session. And on the following day, actually, it's like an EYFS week, on the 30th of September, Rachel Coulthart, who I mentioned earlier, is doing a session called Using Robots to Develop Computational Thinking Skills. So that sounds really interesting. I know Rachel extremely well. She's incredibly passionate, and that I can't recommend that session highly enough to the people listening to this Instagram Live this evening.
I think as well that, you know, I just need to reiterate how great just joining is. I think lots of people think, oh, what's the catch? There is no catch. It's free. It's amazing. You should join. That's all I'm going to say.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like the best kept secret.
Yeah.
Yeah, please tell other people about Computing at School, because it's all about raising awareness of this fabulous organisation. As I say, there is no catch. You know, it's a win-win situation. Yeah. Lots of the sessions are repeated as well. So although we can't record our community meetings, if you can't attend one, it's worth looking on the main events page, because you'll see the titles will come up again, and there will be one that you will be able to attend. And the whole community is really friendly. They're very welcoming. It's a safe space. When you apply to join Computing at School, there's a process in place just to verify that you are a teacher. And we do that to make sure that it's a safe space for all our members. And you can go along and ask any question that you like. So yeah, it really is a great place to come and connect and start connecting. Another place to connect apart from the events is through our primary community on Facebook. So we've got a group there, and lots of our meetings are advertised on there as well. And again, you know, if you're on Facebook, you can ask questions, and somebody from the community will reply and engage with you. So yeah, lots of opportunities to utilise that expertise really sort of beyond your own setting and group of schools. Okay, final top tech tips. I'm not getting better at that phrase. Okay, I just to finish, I put to have a look at the other things that we have available for EYFS practitioners. One of the wonderful things about being part of Computing at School is if you've created a resource and you're happy to share it, we would love you to upload it to the CAS website and to share it with other people. And we have a new website coming. And when that new website is launched, we'll be able to have featured resources, and you'll be able to rate resources. And so that's something to look forward to coming up later on this year. But yeah, the resources on there. We've also got a YouTube channel called CAS TV. And if you search the playlist, there is an early years playlist, and we've got 3 webinars on there at the moment. So that's worth looking at when you have perhaps a bit more time, maybe when the summer holidays come and you've got a spare moment, you know, grab a cup of coffee and have a listen to one of those webinars. And that's also a really good resource to look at, because if you've got to lead training or CPD in your school, then you could use one of those webinars as part of that. So just highlighting that. So that's a kind of ever increasing resource as we produce more of those. But something that not everybody is aware of is under community and under the community resources section, under primary in the start, we have a start here page. And this is a page dedicated to early years practitioners, and it just has lots of ideas and ways to incorporate computing into other areas of the EYFS framework. So yeah, that's just something to point out that people might not be aware of at the moment. And if there are people on listening to this who are thinking, oh, I'd like to get more involved in a community, then yes, by all means, please get in touch. Lots of our communities are co-led by teachers, so not just one person. Some of the communities have 4 teachers leading them. So they are just people who are enthusiastic and passionate about what they do. And as I say, they're all volunteers, they're all, mostly teachers, I would say. So yes.
I think Create, Learn, Inspire says computing at school is certainly a great place for teachers to learn from teachers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would wholeheartedly agree. The only thing really to say as well, Wendy, just as you were talking, in Wales, I know you were talking about the English curriculum, but the science and technology has a strand that says technology is the heart of our computational world. So that computational word is in, quite a lot of the curriculum. It is important to realise that it's, our whole world is full of computers, really, traffic lights, the sat navs, all of that. And in terms of EYFS, it's encouraging children to learn through play and role play, free play. But, their world is full of technology. So our areas should be full of technology as well. I know there's a huge argument that children perhaps don't need technology in early years, but they're going to be growing up in a very technological world. So we should be immersing them in it, to prepare them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think you're right. And it's also about looking for those opportunities to make links. So yeah, when they're playing, you could talk to them about tinkering and, introduce a new word, that vocabulary to them. Oh, what's that? What does that mean? Because they've got those inquisitive minds, haven't they, in the early years? And it's just that great opportunity to make those links and, as you say, make those real world links, real world situations. So there's so many different ways that we can bring technology and computing into the early years setting, whether explicitly through kits, physical kit, and through devices that they can see or that they can role play with, which is a huge part of early years, role playing those future careers, if you like, that they go on. We want to encourage, we've been talking this week about encouraging girls more into computing, and everything starts in the early years setting. And you can't start anything too soon, as it were. So there's so many opportunities. And as I said, with the Barefoot resources that I mentioned earlier, their resources show how the computational thinking skills and how technology goes across the whole curriculum, the whole early years framework. And so you've got those explicit links and those implicit links. So you all the people listening here, you're probably doing a lot of these things already, these concepts and approaches. Maybe you didn't realize you were doing them. But you are. And it's just kind of sometimes pointing out to children what they're doing, and just making those links in learning, really.
Hayley has also added, oh goodness, my voice is going now. It's also great to use old computers to explore and take apart too. Yes, and also a huge thing, I forgot to mention this, huge thing, is sometimes people just use iPads in early years. Get the keyboards out, even if it's not attached to anything, get them typing, because that's a huge skill that's almost disappearing, that we need those keyboard skills. So just like Hayley said, get old computers out, get them to have a little look at them and play with them, and teach the history of computers as well. Just show them all the different types, really, so they've got that wide range of technology that they can see.
That's a fantastic idea. And again, that's something that often happens later on in Key Stage 1, sort of taking that computer apart and looking inside. Let's take the case off. let's see what's actually inside this
Yeah.
box. You know, what is inside a computer? I mean, it's fantastic. Yeah, I think that's a brilliant suggestion from Hayley. So it's lovely, isn't it, when you capture something like that with the early years and you see their eyes light up, you know, when they see something that they weren't expecting.
Yeah.
You know, whole discussion of what do you think's inside this box before I open it and, you know, take the back off a computer. Brilliant. Really lovely.
Yeah. But that sounds great. I think someone's mentioned as well, so it's a nice meeting. So thank you very much for that. As you said, Wendy, the showcase is still going on now tomorrow and Friday. So there are other things coming up as well. Please, 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 I said this on the last Instagram Live, please join Computing at School, because it is, as other people have mentioned as well, a great place for teachers to learn from teachers. There's fantastic webinars coming up, and it's all free. I mean, you'd be silly not to join, really. It's just, like you said, almost a secret of all of these wonderful things to share and learn. So I really, really ask you to join it. It's a fabulous resource. But yeah, thank you so much again, Wendy. Really, really interesting tips. I know that my early years teachers are watching this as well, so hopefully they can bring some things in there. Hayley, thank you so much for being on here to comment and to answer any questions. Really, really hope you get well soon, and that voice comes back and we get to see you on your stories again.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who joined this evening.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Wendy.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.